She don't want to fuck. Then why are you there?
Ever wanted to see what would happen if Notorious B.I.G. and the Snuggles Bear went through the transporter from The Fly? Well, here it is.
If we at a crib and she be a bad host, tryna disappear, see, I'ma go ghost.
ShamelessDAB is a big fan of the show, and he's an even bigger fan of the Smash and Dash. Check out his newest music video by clicking on the link in the description, and maybe he'll introduce you to the stunning and brave models in his videos. Space Ghost.
If we in bed and she being lazy, I'ma disappear like my name Patrick Swayze. Don't hear.
What's up, you horny snot sticks? Terrence Popp here, Ridiculous.com. And I really don't care what YouTube does to me. Good Popp showed up today because I got good news for you. It has never been easier in all of history to do a direct faceplant into the Arby's takeout window. That's where you go if you want to put a little bit of that cheddar in the roast beef, if you know what I mean. But if it's the same orange runny color, you better go see your doctor. Riggs, can you imagine that, gentlemen? You get to the moment of truth and it looks like Cheese Whiz.
That seems about right.
Back in December of 2012, Blake and I sat down in his ghetto apartment.
Hey!
Hey, look, man, it was.
All right, fine.
Yeah. And we filmed this classic episode, Booty Call Mileage.
I'd crush that all day long.
And the only way you can see this today is to go to one of our super secret backup channels. Links in the description. But back then, sites like Tinder, Bumble, and Grindr, they just didn't exist. Even if they did, they were so brand spanking new, nobody even knew about them. If you wanted to dip your nuts in the internet meat market, you actually had to take time and fill out a profile. Ugh. Or you can meet these succubi the old-fashioned way. I call them succubi because that's what I wanted them to do. Suck you and then say bye. You know how it used to go in the old school? You're walking to the bathroom, you bump into them hard but not too hard. And that comes later, just like you, Screen 5. Then you offer to buy him a drink and actually have a conversation. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of work. Everything about dating has changed. For the worst. So we had a thought, if you know what I mean. It is time for a reboot. Apparently you can't call anything a remake now. It's either a reboot or a prequel. F that, drink with me. Buckle up, dingleberries, cause it's gonna be a rumpy, pumpy ride. Yeah. Before we get too drunk, I have to explain to you the basics here. This is the mental math we all do when considering a fortification dummy for a crash test, if you know what I mean. If I'm going to consider a smash and dash, you better pass the 3-prong sniff test, if you know what I mean. Age, looks, body type adds up to a boom. Attraction is the stiff breeze that blows open the door, if you know what I mean. No one is above this. In fact, a lot of people like to get under it. Screen 5. If someone is hot enough, you will move heaven and earth to get a crack at that Bermuda Triangle. Even if it means losing everything never to be seen again. But you guys out there going, Popp, how far is too far? How far is it before I look like a thirsty simp? 30 miles. And if you're going farther than that, well, you're a simp.
Damn it. He's right. Well said.
So now the question is, how do you figure out who's worth the attention? The first thing everyone considers when dating: age. Uh-oh, reality check. Men are not hog-tied into this the same the succubi are. Sorry, fertility is a real thing and it has an expiration date. Kind of like milk. Just accept it. Don't be milk. Don't get all sour and chunky. It's just not attractive, and it smells. Here's how the mileage breaks down by age. 19 to 29, 30 miles. 30 to 34, 25 miles. 35 to 40, 15 miles. You see how this is going down here? 41 to 45, 5 miles. And most of that is dirt road. It's bumpy and muddy. 46 to 50 equals 0. That means they live with you or they're willing to come to you. Even then, you kind of just stick your sausage through a hole in the screen door and just hope for the best. 50 plus, minus 5 miles, and this is where you think I'm being mean. This is where they come to your house with lipstick on, but you're not there. You call them on the phone and say, hey, meet me at the drive-thru across town and bring money for food.
Sir, I'm talking to you. Sir.
Because let's be honest, you really don't want any of that, but you're willing to entertain it if there's food on the line. Here's a thought. The best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Remember that because there will be a quiz later. The next dynamic, and this is important to both genders, don't you lie, looks. And this refers to the face only, the oval above the shoulders, and you'll see why. 9 to 10, 30 miles, and you will almost never meet anyone who meets this criteria. I have traversed the circumference of this earth 2 times by foot while carrying the sum combined weight of a dreadnought battleship. You know how many 10s have come across? 1. I had to fly to Iceland just to bang it. And then I left for Argentina when I was done, screen 5. And here's the rub. That succubus was only a 10 for maybe 2 or 3 years tops. You lose 1 look point every 7 years, and even faster than that if you're a redhead.
How dare you?
Aiden looks 25 miles. 7, 20, 6, 15, 5, 10, and 4. Well, that's a decision based on alcohol and time, let's be honest. Once you dip your nuts below that waterline, you're staying home in the bathtub, just saying. If you are gonna sully your existence by throwing a bone to these chuds, don't let anyone see you doing it.
Half-mast is too high.
And trust me, these chuds will have no problem coming to you after they climb out of the sewer after 1 in the morning, screen 5. Last but not least, we have body type, and these can vary quite a bit between person to person. God knows there are men out there with kinks that just turn my stomach. Oh, but different strokes for different jokes, I guess. Knockout, 30 miles, and they're just as rare as 9s and 10s. Unless you go to South America, and they're all over the place. Can't even throw a stone without hitting one. They have the athletic body, but somehow they have the 15 and 20 mile an hour front and rear bumpers. How is that done? I am not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. I just wanna know how to recreate that here in America. Yeah! It's all about proportions and curves, and not the type of curves you see on Plenty of Fish. Newsflash, you're not curvy, you're just fat. Oh God. Beneath knockout, hopefully in the same bed, you have athletic, which is 25 miles. The reason it's not 30 is severely athletic succubi tend to be a little on the hard side. And let's be honest, the only thing hard in that bedroom should be you, screen 5. But in a country where a majority of people are gravitationally challenged, you gotta give credit where credit is due. And that brings us to thin. 20 miles. See above for reasoning.
I regret nothing. The end.
And that brings us to the biggest lie ever told on internet dating. Average. Get the hell out of here. How big is this lie? Well, 200 pounds on the low end, so it's worth about 15 miles. Here's a thought. You decide if they're average, not them. Thanks to the succubi out there changing the definitions of words, this can encompass everything from truly average to forklift fat. Oh. And that brings us to one of my favorite from the old days, chubby. I'm gonna be honest here. I'm kind of a connoisseur of this, because back in my army days, they used to call me the Hog Slayer. Hey, you could hurt their feelings. 10 miles. Just like average, this one is open to interpretation here in the Western world. But for the sake of continuity, we're gonna give you an ironclad definition. If they're chubby, they're overweight, but the skin is still smooth and somewhat taut. Once the skin inflates and overflows and folds in upon itself with cottage cheese, that's where you become diagnosed with Michelin Man-itis. And that brings us to the final one here. BBW, 5 miles, and that's only if you're open-minded or just drunk or short on time. I hope you're a surfer, because if you do that, you might as well slap a thigh and ride the wave in. Screen 5.
I came here for the same reason people go to the zoo.
So, how does all of this work? Well, you gotta average out all 3 factors. For example, let's take a look at this little blonde minx. Her age, 27, which means 30 miles, starting off with a good foot here. The oval above her shoulders, let's be honest, is a 7, it's worth 20 miles. Body type, clearly she's athletic and well proportioned, so 25 miles. So what you do here is you add up all 3 of the markers and divide by 3. She gets 25 miles. That's how far you're willing to drive to hit that the first time. After that, adjusters come into play, and they don't play nice. Keep this in mind, gentlemen. This is booty call mileage, not relationship mileage.
And now it's time for this week's installment of They Should Be Dead, brought to you by Uncle Nick, Diary of a Misanthrope.
Fatality.
This has been your weekly installment of They Should Be Dead. Frank Selby's novel Uncle Nick is available in paperback and ebook right now. Links are in the description.
Here's a thought. Let's talk about some of the things that you will come to learn about your new seed receptacle. And when you add these things up, it can completely change the dynamic here. Smoker. Socially, minus 5 miles. If they are a heavy smoker, personally for me, that's a wave off. Usually the only good thing about a heavy smoker is the oral fixation, if you know what I mean. But it's not worth it when you take into account, on top of that, bad breath, which is an additional minus 10 miles. Now I know there's some dudes out there, because you crass bastards, who'll say, "Pop, I'll just flip her over and play in the mud." Well, you do you, Space Ghost. I can't do that because bad breath leads right into the next one, bad kisser. Now some people out there are going, "Pop, it's not a big deal," but you've never seen this video.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
And speaking of things that make me uncomfortable, too many kids. Minus 10 miles, but only if they're under the age of 14. Once they're teenagers, they basically want to keep to themselves. They're either in their room or they're not even there. Even one kid can be a problem, and anyone who's ever dated a single mother knows exactly what I'm talking about. You're hanging out there, you do your deal, you decide, you know what, I'm just going to stay here tonight, get up early in the morning and leave. At 3 in the morning, some kid comes in and tries to climb in on your side. That's not weird or anything now, is it? On the flip side, you have over-petting, which is a minus 5 miles. I'm talking about too many hairy creatures walking about that smell. Typically, you're allowed 1 furry creature per person over 18 in the house. You go over that, and it doesn't go anywhere good.
Any dog under 50 pounds is a cat, and cats are pointless.
Speaking of smells, this can be an automatic wave off depending upon the circumstance. I call this one the abused hot pocket, and it's a minus 15 miles. You pull back the panties, and it looks like it had a death match with a taffy puller, or you break the seal and you get hit in the face with the scent of a Pringles can full of shit. Time to go. But That's not the only body part you have to worry about. In fact, one of them's missing, minus 10 miles. I made a whole video about this one called The Missing Link. Links in the description. Here's a thought. Let's say they made it through all that stuff and it's good. And then they start talking. If they're boring or a prude, especially if they're a prude, minus 10 miles. You did not drive all that way for a prude. You went there to get screwed. Screen 5. If you want us to come over for dinner, then breakfast, learn how to hold a conversation. And if you expect us to take you out to eat, don't be too expensive. If I gotta shell out $100 to $150 every time I show up on your porch, minus 10 miles. And here's another thought. That's a nice one. If they're expensive, I'm a betting man, and I'm betting them on being an opinionated witch. She can be the hottest piece of slot C you've ever seen. She opens her mouth and you automatically get images of her flying on a broomstick and cooking crap over a cauldron. Wave off. But let's be honest, you're young, you're thinking with a little head, so minus 10 miles. Don't fret, ladies and germs. There are some positive adjusters out there for you. You make that drive and you discover they have quality beer and booze on tap and they're willing to share. Plus 5 miles. We made a whole episode about this one called Alcohol Adjusters. Links in the description. There is no person out there that is so ugly that booze cannot help them. I'm just saying. That's why they say a 2 at 10 is a 10 at 2. It only takes 6 beers. Speaking about things that you put in your mouth, if they can cook and they're good, plus 10 miles. All right, so let me get this straight. You get to swallow every drop. Oh, I get meatloaf, mashed potatoes, stovetop. It's on. See you at 9.
Good morning.
We're going to stick with the subject of oral fixations, if you get my drift. If they're good at oral, they like it, and they don't complain, plus 5 miles. Let's be honest, just because a girl likes oral does not mean she's good at it. Yeah! And since we're talking about that subject, if they like to swallow, additional 5 miles.
I have no problem with swallowing. I don't even think I've ever spit in my life.
Now, for some people, swallowing crosses into the road of kinky, and it can be good or bad. Some kinky is good, kind of like dirty talk. If they do it well, plus 5 miles. But some people, they're just terrible at dirty talk, and it's a total hydraulic killer, if you know what I mean. Everyone out there who's sexually active has heard somebody dirty talking that has no business doing it.
Say it!
Okay, you're a lovely little female dog.
Or you show up and they're laying in a bed of ice. They hand you a cat o' nine tails and the infamous double stroker. They look you in the eyes and say, "These are the only 2 things you can touch me with." Put them down and step away from the problem and then run away. And why is that? It's physical evidence if it goes bad. Just saying. Now, I know men typically are not wired this way, but if they have money, plus 10 miles, if they have money, they're not going to try to get your money, but you know, as a dude, you're temporary. This is just a booty call, or at best, a friends with benefits. Nothing more, nothing less. Do not get butthurt over it.
But I really thought we had something special. She's so sweet, and I like her so much.
Shut the hell up. She's a doctor, you're a mechanic. You just went over there for an adjustment a time or 2. The last 3 on this list, they all kind of feed into each other in some sick quagmire way. It's happened to me. I get done with the deal, go in the bathroom, look in the corner, AK, loaded, 12 gauge. Hey, whose guns are those? Oh, they're yours. Winning. Then I got back from the bathroom and we actually had a meaningful conversation. Wow! If they like to talk, but not too much, and they can hold a conversation, plus 5 miles. That means I'm staying for dinner, possibly breakfast. Screen 5. And pay attention when you're having these conversations, because that's when you discover if they have cool points, plus 10 miles. Well, they can come in all kinds of shapes and forms, and here are a few off the top of my head. If they like guns, and they like shooting, winning. They like action movies, and they don't force you to go to see every single rom-com movie that comes out. Double winning. You're on the couch, it's getting hot and heavy, and she whispers in your ear, put on some Oran Pay. Winning! Listen, everyone's different. Variety is the spice of life. Your cool points can be different than mine, and that's totally okay. But there are some things that no amount of looks, mileage, or what have you will ever compensate for. These are the automatic wave-offs, which means you detect them, you get up, right face, out the door you go. Do not pass go. You're not collecting $200, and don't you dare empty your junk on the community chat screen 5. Ha ha! All right, gentlemen, you finish your deal, you go into the bathroom to flush the condom. You do a courtesy check of the medicine cabinet, and lo and behold, head meds. Go get your pants, put on your shirt, no explanation, get your keys and leave.
Do you have any history of mental illness in your family?
I have an uncle who does yoga.
Or you find evidence of hard drugs, crack pipes, needles, and what have you. Leave. You'll notice I didn't mention meth because you will realize long before it even gets to that stage. And you want to know why? One of the reasons they're on head meds and hard drugs? They're over-tatted and over-pierced. And if they're over-tatted and over-pierced, chances are they're on head meds or hard drugs.
How dare you?
That is self-mutilation, which means trauma and trouble, and you don't need any of that. If they have a heart on their hip or a tiny little dragon, or their ears pierced, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the neck tattoo or the one that's all over their back, one's down an arm, or they have so much hardware in their junk downstairs it looks like a cheese grater. No! If you can hang worms off that and put it over the side of a boat and catch a fish, too many piercings. Speaking of water sports brings us to the next one. Oh God. And this one is very insidious because usually there's no outward signs or symptoms. By the time you get to the moment of truth, it is way too late.
Spit in my mouth!
No.
Piss in my butt!
What?
Shit in your hand and rub it in my face!
Where's the exit? I'm getting a lump of vomit in my throat. That is how much I care about you dudes out there, so you avoid this stuff. And last but certainly not least, I still want to throw up, System Surfer. This is where you show up at their place and you discover they're living in the ghetto on Section 8 and they're bragging about WIC, welfare, and child support. You need to run away immediately. But you know this one is coming, gentlemen. Hit it, quit it, run it through all the gears, park stop it, neutral slam it, flip it over, leave it in a ditch with a bent frame, dripping fluid from the front and rear tailpipe. And if you get to the end of all this and you add in all your adjusters and it's a negative number, well, just cut a hole in the screen door and bust out your drinking straw. Oh! And the ultimate bottom line here is a rule of thumb I follow, which is called the 40-40 rule. If they're over 40, don't you dare travel more than 40 miles, period. Even if they still get their period, just saying. Thankfully, Tinder, Bumble, and all of the other dating apps, they map out the distance for you. So, staying true to booty call mileage, well, it's never been easier. Speaking of which, we want to turn booty call mileage into a bar app. If you know how to do that, please send us an email to redonkulous12@gmail.com and let's make that happen. Thanks, Internet! Winning! No. With that being said, my menagerie is empty. I'm done with you. Go away.
The majority of women here are overweight.
Yeah, they're slothful. The freshman 15 is now the freshman 25, and by the time they're done with college, it's the senior 50.
Ugh.
So they show up to college 135, they graduate at 190.
Yeah, and all that extra weight is just the cum in them.
It leaks out. It takes years to leak out.
That's why they start waddling, like ducks. They're trying to shake all the semen out of their fucking crevasses.
Their crevasses.